Hey good people, I thought I would do something a bit different today. Some time back I did a video on comments on YouTube that were snarky and rude. The typical trolley type stuff you get. If you have a YouTube channel and you put videos up, you're going to get it. But I didn't want to create that impression as a totality. I get a lot of great comments and interesting people and wonderful discussion coming through this medium, so I wanted to maybe start a series of videos, just kick the camera, start a series of videos to honor the nicer the better people that come on here that are constructive. So I've made a list of 10 quick topics that have come up recently in YouTube comments repeatedly, and I'll speak to them, and maybe if this is something you find helpful, we'll do it more in the future. Number one, neck width on a guitar. I've had 2 or 3, maybe even more than that, people say, hey look, just because you have skinny fingers doesn't mean we do. We need a thicker nut width on our guitars. It's just physiology. It's the way we're made. Fair dues. I sold a ukulele to someone the other day who could not play a chord on a concert uke. I had to sell him a baritone. I put my 3 fingers together like that, and that's one of his fingers. And it reminded me that we're all made slightly differently. So those of you who have been writing in saying, hey, I need this kind of width on a nut to play comfortably, I completely understand. Most of your nut widths these days, I'd say 95% of the guitars I get in are 1 11/16 inch at the nut. That's fairly standard these days, and that's not wide enough for some of you. The fact that I can play on pretty much any neck style and get along with it, is luck really. And I realize that not everybody has, that sort of thing going on with across the spectrum. Those of you who need specific dimensions on guitars, whether it's nut width or body shape or anything like that, I understand. We're all different. Number 2, I still have, every once in a while I get people who question China-made guitars. I got one today where they said, "Made in China, no thanks." Hey, it's up to you. It's up to your discretion. If you want to rule out 90% of the manufacturing world of musical instruments, then go ahead. Just be aware that you're missing out on Eastman, you're missing out on higher-end guilds, you're missing out on lots of great brands and models. Every country now that manufactures guitar has good and bad makers, and the ratio of good to bad is improving all the time. Even though there still is a lot of junk coming out of China, I'm finding a lot of really good stuff as well, really made stuff, well-made stuff. So my standard comment is, you're working on an old paradigm. Your comments are about 10, 15 years behind the times. We used to laugh at China back then. We don't anymore. They have, even boutique guitars, they have handmade, high-end, top-made, even the top brands. A lot of them are distributing from China and Asian countries. So, if you want to rule that out, that's up to you. Leaves more for the rest of us. Number 3, IYV guitars, the Indian Vina guitars that I've featured on this channel. I've had at least 4 or 5 of you who have written to say, hey, I checked out your video, I tried one of these guitars and I really liked it. Good to hear. I think they're great value. I've had probably 6 or 7 of them now. I've kept one and moved the rest on, not because I didn't like it, just because I can't be greedy and I can't keep everything. But I think they're well made. I actually prefer them to the Firefly guitars, and I think they rival Harley Benton and other import guitars as well. I don't know why it took so long for people to discover these guitars, but I'm finding those videos I made are getting more and more likes, and more people are cottoning on to IYV guitars, which is not surprising. Number 4 is a question I've had a couple of times lately. Where can I learn Luthery skills or Luthier skills? There are a number of ways to do this. If you want to go the traditional route, you enlist in a school like Red Wing or the Chicago School. and they have great programs. They have bowed string wing and a fretted string wing, most of them, and there are some in Europe as well. And you can go take a traditional course and get traditional certification, which will help you probably learn more properly. And if you want to work in that industry with a certification from one of those institutions, it'll probably stand you in better stead than being autodidactic like me. I got a job in an old-time double bass violin family shop and learned as much as I could from the luthiers that work there, and then got another couple of jobs working for guitar companies in QC. So I learned from the people I work with. I picked up as much as I could along the way, and I kind of do it on my own now, and learn as much as I can still by taking on new projects and new instruments. Those of you who can't go the traditional route, you can get a long way on YouTube. There's lots of great luthiers on YouTube that are posting videos with everything from general guitar setup to more advanced restoration projects. You know the names. Crimson Guitar has a great series of repair videos, as does StewMac. There are 2 or 3 top luthiers that do videos for Stuart McDonald or StewMac. You know, there's people like our friend Randy Schottinger. There's the bloke from Canada that fixes guitars, John Robson. There's tons of them that do guitar work and post videos and are very competent and good at what they do. And you can learn a lot. I learn a lot from watching those videos, and you can start out just doing standard setups and then maybe moving to more complicated stuff like gluing a bridge on, or correcting a bridge angle or something like that. Probably the way to start is to buy used, or not used, but damaged fixer-upper / project guitars on eBay. Sometimes you can buy them in lots. Usually you can pick them up as cheap as $50, $60, $70, $80, and then you're not out a lot of money. Don't practice on your own guitar. Get a couple of those fixer-uppers to learn on. Be careful. There are predators in selling in that field. I've come across 2 sellers recently that charge almost as much for their damaged fixer-upper guitars as you buy them new or used for. It's incredible what they're asking for guitars with broken necks and things like that. I don't buy from them. Any guitar with a broken neck is worth, a fraction of its original cost, not $20 less than its original cost. So be very careful buying those guitars. Try to buy in lots. Sometimes you can get a lot of 3 or 4 busted guitars, or guitars that need work or setup work or something like that, and it'll give you something to learn on. It's much better to learn to try and do it on a Rogue, or a cheap Rogue, and screw it up, than to do it on your Taylor and screw it up. So bear that in mind. And there are lots of videos on how you can acquire tools. If you want to pay full price and get top-of-the-line tools, you got places like StewMac, Crimson. If you want to get adequate tools for a little bit less, then there are options on Amazon and eBay where you can pretty much set yourself up with all the tools that you need for standard setup work. And there's plenty of videos on that as well. Number 5, I've had a couple of people contact me and correct me on specifications on certain guitars. I do a lot of research on instruments. I've been doing it since back in my violin days, where I had to research 16th, 17th, and 18th century instruments. And I try to apply the same ethos to more modern guitars. So if I list incorrect specs, it's probably because I got incorrect specs off of a website or off of one of the top selling sites. For instance, recently I had a solid Hawaiian koa ukulele that turned out not to be solid, but still Hawaiian koa. And that was pointed out by a couple of people, but I actually got the specs from that, from a website, which has since been corrected. So I passed on the mistake rather than made it myself, but always glad to have people point stuff out. Stuff does slip through the net. Sometimes you post something as being rosewood board when it's a walnut board. That kind of thing can happen. I would say if you're looking to buy a guitar, always check the website specs, or go on to one of the top rated seller sites like Sleetwater or Zounds, or even Guitar Center, a musician's friend, and look at their specs. even compare a couple of sources. Number 6, a couple people have asked me about a ukulele brand that I had all the time a couple of years ago called UK Boy. I was getting them in bulk. I set them up. They made great ukuleles. I sold tons of them. Everybody loved them. Then they dried up and disappeared. This happens, as I've done a few videos about this. A lot of lesser known brands, they do smaller runs. For instance, they'll get 1,000 made instead of 50,000 made, like the top brands, and then they'll sell them, and then they disappear. Happens a lot. I often come across runs of good guitars or ukuleles, and then they disappear, and then I have to find something else. UK Boy was one of them, although I did hear from a commenter recently that there is a new distribution for that brand, and I'll look into that. Number 5, sort of related to what I talked about a minute ago, somebody pointed out to me that the Clamour guitars that I did a video on recently, well, a couple of months ago, are not the same as the Martin Clamour, and that they're actually Clamour copies made in China and sold on the Australian market. Thanks for pointing that out. I doubt they're copies. I don't think Martin Clamour, as well as they're made, are high enough end for people to bother trying to copy. What I suspect is that the name, being sort of an Eastern European name, attracted a Chinese seller to put on their particular instrument. You see this a lot. You see a lot of violins, for instance, sold under the name Antonio or Antonius because of Antonio Stradivari. They're trying to have an Italian-sounding name, which gives the instrument a bit more gravitas in the sales market. This is probably what's happening here. Good to know. Tell me that stuff when you know about it. Clamour has nothing to do with Martin Clamour, although it was a reasonable guitar, I have to say. Budget, is not the same as the Eastern European Martin Clamour guitars. Good information to have. Number 6, a lot of comments about lesser known companies like Harley Benton and the Thomann brands, the Rondo brands, the Music Corp brands copying body shapes. All of these budget brands have an S style, a T style, sometimes even a PRS style or an Ibanez style guitar. And we tend to bash these smaller companies for continually copying body styles from the bigger companies. A couple of you have pointed out that this happens in any industry. One person made the analogy that cars have been doing this for centuries, and it's not centuries, for decades, and it's more of a homage than a copy or a plagiarism. And also, some of you have pointed out that the companies themselves, like Gibson, Fender, Ibanez, that we tend to think are original, aren't. They borrowed in their designs. If you study, where they got the ideas for the Stratocaster, Telecaster, even Martin Dreadnought and things like that, there are lots of influences. There are lots of things they borrowed from back in the day. There's no company that hasn't copied another company in the music instrument world. Good points. Enjoyed that discussion. Number 7, someone took me to task for promoting Wish.com. I thought I made it clear in those 2 videos I did on the Wish.com guitars, but apparently I didn't. I don't buy from them anymore. That was a one-time thing. I bought 2 guitars. The customer service was terrible. The price wasn't that great when you're figuring in the shipping and fees that they tack on. And the guitars had the same problems. They looked like they'd been warehoused. They were dried out. They had issues, and the Wish didn't have good customer service at all. So I never bothered going back. So I thought I made that clear at the time. But if you want to try Wish out, they might be good for some things, but I consider them to be a waste of time for guitars and things like that. I ran into too many snags, and there are too many other things to try without going back and getting stung multiple times. So I actually agree with that, the person who sent that comment. Number 8, some of you have said, hey, you do videos on these guitars and then we can't find them. One example was the IYV bass that I did recently. Well, I just gave you the explanation for that. They do very small runs. With people like IYV and Firefly, you have to just keep checking back on Amazon. They restock in small amounts, then they sell out quickly, and then a month later they'll restock again in small amounts. I go on there every week and type in IVY, they have it the wrong way around on Amazon, and just see what they're carrying, because they just add bits and short runs of guitars here and there. Same with Firefly and others. Zhuwei is another one that does that. Starshine, companies like that, very short runs. So if you can't find a guitar that I've shown, just keep trying, particularly with Amazon brands. They tend to be in stock, then out of stock, in stock, out of stock. There are other ones that people have had issues with. One person couldn't find the Fender Parlor, I think it's the Moonshine, or the Moonbeam model, the silver Moon one. With some of those bigger companies, they have so many models that they often discontinue a model and then replace it with something similar. So it's probably, if it's a Fender or an Ibanez or an Alvarez or something like that, they probably have discontinued that model. They may roll it out in another guise or another version at some point. But those bigger companies tend to do models by the year, and they don't always renew them. Some the bigger ones they do. I mean, there's some models they always sell, like the SG guitar. You're going to get that every year. But some of their other models, particularly with the Exotic Wood Acoustic, which I think that was one of, they often discontinue and then run something similar. So you have to kind of go on the used market for stuff like that. I had somebody saw my video on the OLP guitars. Same thing, they can't find one. Well, there's a buzz out on those guitars. You can't find them new. And when the new ones come on eBay, they go like that. They're sort of pre-PRS. They look to me like the EVH guitars, the Van Halen guitars, same shape with the tremolos, and they're just really popular. So when they come up used, they tend to sell really quickly. So for stuff like that, you just have to be really patient and keep trying, keep searching. A few people have asked me what's the price on a guitar that I'm selling. By the time I get the question and answer it, chances are the guitar's gone. So quick rule of thumb, most of what I do videos on my channel then gets put on, or is on my Reverb and eBay pages, or gets put on soon after. I sell under the name Flowforth, all one word, on eBay and Reverb. I duplicate my listings on there and just take them down as they sell. I also have the same on Amazon Marketplace these days, so you can find them. And I put a link to my Reverb page because I kind of prefer them to eBay. I put my Reverb link on every video. If you look in the links at the bottom of the description, you can click and see what I've got going on. Right now I'm completely smashed, inebriated, not inebriated, what's the word? My stock has been decimated and I don't have much, and we'll be restocking after Christmas. But if ever you see something and you're wondering what I'm selling it from, you can check on that link and see the listing, make an offer. If you buy it somewhere else, that's fine. I understand that not all of you can buy from me, and I don't expect it. For instance, I can only sell in the US right now. I can't do international shipping. It's just prohibitive. And then some of you have other sources for stuff that you prefer to go to. Completely understood. I don't use this channel to hard sell my guitars, but most of them are available to be shipped in the US 50 if you are interested. And lastly, a lot of conversation about consistency of build quality across different brands of guitars. And this is entirely subjective and experiential. For instance, I report that I've had good luck with Harley Bentons. Haven't really sent any back. I've been able to set them up. I think they're decent for the money. Other people don't. Other people have had a different experience. Other people have given up on the brand. I understand that we're all different. So sometimes you'll disagree with me. Sometimes we'll be in agreement. I recently had a comment from a couple of people, one in Canada, about the greatness and consistency of Seagull and the Godin brand guitars completely agree. I've had Art and Luthery's, Godin's, Simon Patrick's, La Patries, and all of them being great guitars. I've got a couple of the Godin Electrics that I keep in my arsenal that I love. So I've noticed consistency with them, all Canadian made local woods, good build quality. And then sometimes I will disagree with you. For instance, somebody was trying to convince me that Oscar Schmidt was in that realm, and I just can't go with that. I mean, I think I've had some incredible Oscar Schmidt guitars, great prices, set up really nice, great value, but I've had some duds. I've had 2 or 3 in the last year with neck warp or humped neck at the body fret. Just niggly issues that I either had to send them back or I had to set them up in a way, do a complete fret job on them because there was a hump on the body fret, something like that. I'm a little hesitant on that brand now. Sometimes I get them and I think, wow, these are as good as the regular Washburns, but other times I get them and they really do feel like sort of a risky budget buy for me. So sometimes I won't agree with you, but I understand the person that brought that up probably has bought a number of Oscar Schmidt guitars and has had a great experience and loves them. And I think that's absolutely fair. It's going to be slightly different for all of us. So I like to hear your experiences. I like to hear how things have worked out for you when you buy a guitar that I have not advertised but do a feature on, and you follow my advice. How does it work out? Did you like it? Did you keep it? Did you resell it? Did you have to do tons of setup on it? All that's really interesting to me, and I realize we're going to have slightly different experiences between us. But anyway, I thought I would do this. It's a great way to come up with content and subject matter, so I think I might make this a regular feature where I just comb through the comments and maybe pick out 10 subjects to sort of speak on at length, because even though I do try to answer all the comments, it's very time consuming. It's hard to type lengthy responses to all of you, and it's a lot nicer if I can just sort of expatiate on these themes in real time. So maybe I'll make this, you tell me if you find it helpful. I'll make it a regular feature. I realize a lot of people that are far bigger than I do this as a live video in real time. I don't think I'm quite at that size yet to do live events. Otherwise I would do something like these questions in that manner, sort of like the way Phil McKnight and others do. I think if I did a live event, I couldn't generate enough people at the time of the event. I don't have enough subscribers for that. So maybe down the line, but for now I'll just do maybe a video where I look at some of the things that you bring up. And if there's something you'd like me to talk about on this feature, just in one of the comments, just make that clear to me. Hey, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, and I'll be sure to include it. All right, folks, thanks for joining me. Thanks for listening. It's a week till Christmas. I hope you have a great holiday. I realize it's more difficult this year with most of us having to be home alone and not getting together in big family groups, but it's what you make it, isn't it? So hopefully that's with a guitar or a ukulele, and you all have a very merry one. And I'll see you on the next video.